All right, so let's go over everything that we've learned. So I'm in Dreamweaver right now, and you can do this. And my goal today is to do a quick review of most of the stuff that we've learned, and show you guys divs and explain how divs work, what's their purpose, and how they're useful. So first things first, I'm going to go to File and New. I'm going to make an HTML document, and we're going to call this Lego Practice Site. We'll call it Site 1. All right. I'm going to go to Create. Let me change my view. I'm going to do a code and live view. And then let's see my split. We're going to go with vertical split and let's see, code view on the left. Okay, now you don't have to have your code view on the left like me if you don't want to. That's totally fine. I've used Dreamweaver for many years, so this is the type that I prefer. So coming in here, let's put some content on our web page. So I'm working in the body. Remember, the body is there to the body's there for the viewer to see the content. Okay. So we're gonna make a portfolio site. Last week, when I gave you guys your assignment, I wanted you guys to make a site that you're starting to like turn into your portfolio site. So we've got this paragraph tag, we've got this body. We're gonna do some interesting things now. So the way divs work, the divs kind of work like a sandbox. So let me open up Paint real quick. Let's do Photoshop. We'll open up Photoshop so I can kind of explain this visually. Because I know many of us in this were visual learners. So bear with me here. Come on. All right, so we're going to create a new document real quick. And so I want to explain how this works. So divs work like this. Let's say you have a box, right? All right, so you got a box. And this box, we'll say that this box is our site. And inside of that box, we'll call this box like our big div, like our home div, or the body div. And then inside this box, we can place other boxes that might help us arrange our content. So like maybe I want some menus in here. And I can actually put, what's really cool is I can infinitely place boxes inside of boxes as long as they fit. Now what happens is if they don't fit, those boxes will go to the next area within that div that they can fit themselves into. So like you can see right here, maybe I'm making some buttons. What'll happen is if I make too many buttons and I try to make another one, it will enlarge this div, it'll push it down, or push this div outside of the div visually, and then we have kind of like a scrambled thing. So we have to keep in mind a couple things. One, the size of the divs that we're working with, and two, we have to make sure that the divs that we make can fit inside of the other divs. And that's how we're going to arrange our website. Is we're going to set up some boxes with some content, and we're gonna do a basic one today. I'll demonstrate a very simple one today, and then we'll place that content inside of those boxes. So let me go back here. We got our Malego portfolio site, and before we were throwing our tags in, and it was just kind of arranging it vertically, and it didn't really look really good. But now we need to start to organize it out. So let's open up. We're gonna go to Window, and we're gonna go to Insert. And the Insert panel, we're gonna be working with this quite a bit. The Insert panel is really cool. Reason being is it lets you insert any type of tag that you want, and Dreamweaver is really awesome for divs. So let's go to Show Labels. So I clicked on this little box. We've gone to Show Labels, and right here in the body, I'm going to insert a div. So I'm going to go to Insert, Div. Now we have to. You'll see right here we've got class, and then new CSS rule. For right now, remember the rules of the tags. Everything needs to be lowercase, and there can't be any spaces. So we're going to call this the main body. I'm going to call it dot main body, and I'm going to say that this is a new CSS rule. And so I haven't even made a style sheet yet. And the cool thing about Dreamweaver is it's going, whoa, buddy, you're making a CSS rule without a style sheet. Do you want to make a new one? And we're going to say yes. And here's how we do that. We're going to come down here to where it says choose where your rule will be defined, and we're going to make a brand new style sheet automatically. That'll automatically be connected. Remember, last class, I showed you guys how to connect a style sheet on your own manually. Well, now we're going to do it automatically. So we're going to make a new style sheet, and now we're going to name this selector. So we're going to name this div, and we're going to call this main body. Okay. And when I click OK, because I've chosen to make a new style sheet, it's going, all right, well, what do you want to save this style sheet as? So I'm going to call this Lego Practice CSS. Okay, let me save that up. All right, you can see it's already made our link. Remember these? href and rel and all these tags. Awesome. So what we're doing now is we're making a new CSS rule. Okay, before we made like the background color rule. Now I'm coming in and I'm defining what this new rule is, and I'm going to say that we're going to make a box, which is kind of your div, and then we're going to establish the width of this and then some other characteristics. So for what we're doing today, traditionally, websites are 960 by 960 for that main body div. To keep things easy for you, since you're just learning, we're going to make the width 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels. Okay? Normally, though, it's 960 pixels by 960 pixels, but for time's sake and for your sanity, because I know many of you don't like doing math, we're going to do it at 1,000 by 1,000, and then float left. So think of the float as like the alignment of text when you're in Microsoft Word or Google Docs. Okay? The clear, don't worry about that for right now. We'll come back to that at a later date. The padding is the space around the div. Right now, we're not going to have any padding because we're doing the main body, and so we're not worried about that. The margin is the space between other divs. So right now, we're not going to mess with any of that. We're just going to click OK. Okay, so there's our main body. And so you can see right here, we can pick where we're going to drop this new div, and we're going to put it at the insertion point. Okay, because right here on my cursor, I'm in my body tag, and I'm saying I want to put a div right in the body. That's really the only place you can put it. And so you can see I've got my 1,000 by 1,000 div. It's just made itself in our live view. Okay. Now, what I will say is any content that you want inside of this box needs to go in between the open tag and the close tag of that div. So if you put anything outside of in between those tags, it's going to go outside that box. And we don't really want to do that. So we're going to actually take this. We're going to take this paragraph tag. I'm going to cut it out. And then let me paste it inside. And you can see right here. There it is, Malego Art Portfolio Site. But I'm not done. I want to put other divs inside of this div like I showed you here to lay out our page. So I'm going to take this close tag and I'm going to give it some space from that open tag. And I'm going to make a bunch of other div classes in between. Okay? So when I go to do this, I want to plan this out. So I'm going to go into Photoshop real quick and let's see. Let's just say we'll have 5 buttons going across, and you know what? I'm going to have just one big title box right here. And then maybe I want to show some artwork here. And what I'm doing right now is I'm making a map. I'm making a map because I need to use a little bit of math. A little bit of math in order to, a little bit of algebra technically, to figure out how big each box needs to be and how it's going to fit in my divs. So I'm going to have one big title box up at the top. We know that it's 1,000 pixels by 1,000 pixels. So I'm going to make a new div. I'm going to go to Insert, Div. I'm going to call this dot title bar. Okay, I'm going to make a new CSS rule just like before. Okay, now, unlike before where I was making a new style sheet, I've already made a style sheet for this website, so I don't need to make another one. I just need to pick this. Lego Practice CSS. This was the style sheet that I made earlier because I've already got one. I don't need 7 of them right now. And then I'm going to call this one dot title bar. If you want to put a space, you underscore bar. But again, keep it lowercase, keep it all one word, no spaces. Click OK. So looking at my little map here, I know that I'm going to have this be the entire width. So let me put this aside here. And so I'm going to go up to the box. I'm making a box. And I'm going to make the width of it exactly 1,000 pixels. And the height, let's see. Let's see how 200 pixels looks. And I'm going to click OK. Here we go, title bar. So now what I've done is I've created this div inside of another div. So here's the main body. Here's the title bar. Let me take this paragraph tag out and put it in the title bar area. So we're going to hit Control X to cut. Highlight this. We're going to hit Control V to place it in there. So now that's in there. So we've got Malego Art Portfolio Site. So that div's done. We now need to make some buttons. So we need to have some divs going across. I'm going to go to the next line. Again, it's going to be inside the main body div. I'm not making it inside my buttons inside the title bar div. But the title bar, that's a nice size. I like that. So when I'm going back to my plan here, I want to have a portfolio that shows my paintings, my drawings, my student work. ink work, and maybe a way that they can contact me. So I need 5 buttons. So I want those 5 buttons to evenly spread itself across this div. So the width of those buttons would be, I know that they're going to be 200. And then looking at this div right here, I want it probably half of that length there. So it'll be like a 200 by 100 button. So let's go to the next line. We're going to go to Insert, Div. We're going to call this dot buttons. You can really call it whenever you want. If you wanted to call it giraffe farts, you could literally call your tags giraffe farts. But for this, we're just going to call it buttons. We're going to hit a new CSS rule. Oh, look, there's my style sheet. Always check this. Make sure it's on the style sheet you've made for this. We're going to call this dot buttons. Click OK. I'm going to go into box. I know that my width is going to be 200. 200 pixels. My height is going to be 100. Okay. Now for this, I know that I want to make sure that they're floating to the left. Reason being is I'm going to be making like 5 of these things. So let me hit OK and click OK. So here's my first button. I feel like that button's a little too wide. What do I do? We're going to go to Window, and we're going to open up the CSS Designer panel. And I'm going to make an adjustment to that rule. So here I've clicked on Buttons, and then I'm going to click this little check mark that says Show Set, and it's going to let me manually edit any piece of content however I want. So I want to fix the height here because that's way too wide for a button and I think it looks ugly. So I'm going to take the height down to 50 pixels. There we go. That's looking a little bit snazzier. And I want to do some fancy things to it. So I want my buttons to look the same. So if I scroll down a little bit, you can see I can adjust things like background color. I can make the background image, like I can change this so that there's an image inside, and I can upload that image. I can also make it a gradient. I'll tell you what, let's make it fancy. I'm going to click on this and we're going to make it a gradient. So here's our sliders, and you should be very familiar with this for Photoshop. And let's do something kind of 90s-ish. Child of the 90s, so click one slider and the other slider. Ooh, there we go. That's looking fancy. All right, so now I've got this nice linear gradient in this button. I can also change the text and what the text looks like and how it's aligned. So like maybe I want the alignment to be center. Oh, look at that. Change my button to center. And we had touched on font families. Now remember, font families are fonts that every web browser can understand. So by default in here, I'm going to go, let's do an impact. Ooh, that looks nice. And let me change the color of my text inside of my buttons. Let's change it to, let's go with like a white. See how that looks. Eeh, that's looking ugly. So let's put a little drop shadow maybe, or let's see. Let's go with a different color. See how black looks. All right, black's more legible. And let's see. Wait, let's go with a bold. Yeah, that's hideous looking. Let's go with a large font. There we go. It's filling that button. Looking nice. Let's put a little drop shadow in there. A white drop shadow. See how that looks. And then we're gonna put it over 2 pixels and down 2 pixels. Ooh, look at that 90s button. Woo! Like 1997 all over again. Let me drag this over here so we can go back to it later. Hey, go in there. All right. So you might be asking yourself, Mr. Malego, why would I do all this for one button? That seems like a lot of work. No, it's not. Check this out. We can do this. I can start typing div class buttons. Now, oh, look, another button has popped up, and I could call this paintings. Now, let me press enter. I'm going to put another button because I want 5 of them. So, open tag. Let's go to div class buttons. We'll call this one drawings. And see how easy Dreamweaver makes things. Now we're going to go to div class buttons. All right, let's call this one student work. And for our last button, we're going to go div. See, because I've established that CSS rule and that class, okay, anytime I make a div class called a button, it's going to look exactly like this, with all the characteristics that I've defined for the initial button. And it should work very smoothly. So we'll say contact me. Ooh. Let's go up here. Let's change this to like ink work. I'm all about ink right now. And a weird ink phase with my art. Ooh, look at that. So, just a review so far. We've got our main body tag, which is this bad boy right here, which has all these other divs in it. We have our title div called title bar. Then we have our buttons bars that are lined up under this. Now, remember, Dreamweaver knows to put these buttons on the next line because we've aligned all of our divs to the left, and because this title bar takes up the entire 1000 pixels, it pushes it to the next line. And because this has taken up the entire 1000 pixels, it's going to push the next div to the next line. But be careful, because watch what happens when I click on buttons. And let's say I want to put some padding in there. Or maybe a border. Let's say border. Okay. So like let's say we want to put a thick border style. Let's put a dotted. Uh-oh. It's pushed the button to the next line. The reason being is those little dots of that border take up space. It takes up pixel room. So it's going to push it to that next line. So let's get rid of this because I don't want this. It's not 90s. Okay, so we've got title bar and we got our buttons. And now let's come down. We're going to do our next div. All right, so let's say we want to throw an ad on there. Okay, so, or you know what? We'll say, yeah, let's throw an ad. We'll go crazy. Okay. So I know that I want to put like an area for ads like right here in my website. So I need to figure out the height of this and the height of this. So I know the height of this is 200 pixels for my title bar, and the height of this is 50 pixels. So that's 250. So if we take 1000 minus 250, we have 750 pixels left to work with. So I'm going to come up here. I'm going to make a new div class. So I'm going to go to insert div. Then I'm going to call this dot. We're going to call this dot add space. We're going to make a new CSS rule in case I want to make a couple of them. We're going to call this dot add space. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go to box. And I said 750. So actually the height is going to be 750. And the width, let's make it 200. You know what? Let's make it 250. I want to go crazy. All right, hit OK. All right. So now we've got our add space here. And I forgot to do something. I forgot to make it float left. Clicking on it, and we're going to make sure that that bad boy's floating left. You can see what happens when you don't make everything flow left. It won't go, sometimes it won't go down to the next line. It'll just bleed over top of the borders you've got. So I've come in here, and when I want to change a rule or change an aspect of a rule that I've made, I come into the CSS Designer panel, click on it in my code view, find it here in my selectors, and then make that adjustment. So we've got our add space content that's going there. I want to kind of mark it off with some color. So let's change the background color. We're just going to go with something a little bland here. There we go. That way I know it's there. Now, we've got our add space, title bar, buttons. Now let's throw our content up there. We want our pictures, our content to be displayed here so that a user can click on it and then open it up on another page. So I need to figure some things out. Going back to my map here, this is not going to work. So I want to like break it off so it's a grid almost. I don't want to save my changes. So I know that this is 250 pixels wide, and it goes all the way down the bottom. And I know that I've got this 250 pixels tall. And so that leaves me with a 750 by 750 area here in this div. So I'm going to make, how can I split that into sections? So let's see. I need a visual here. Go back into Photoshop. We're going to do a little math. I'm a visual guy. Bear with me. So we're going to create new. All right, so let's say I've got this box 750. So let's take our text. Now I got 750 here. Oh, make that much bigger. And I know I've got 750 here. So let's bring out our good friend, the handy dandy calculator. And so maybe we want to have like 3 across. So let's see if we can get something without a remainder. So 750 divided by 3, so that's 250. So I can make a grid of 9 here. So I could make 250 by 250 cubes going all the way through. And I could do a 3 by 3. So thanks to our friend the math. We're going to come up here and we're going to go to Insert, div. And we're going to call this pictures. Ooh, look at me, breaking all the rules. We're going to insert a new CSS rule. Call this dot pictures. Click OK. We're going to make a box. We're going to call that box. Say it's 250. I'm going to flip that bad boy to the left. Click OK. All right. So there I've got my first pictures. And so I'm making that div so I can give a clickable space. We're going to say div class pictures. We're going to close the tag. We're going to call this picture 2. We're going to go div class pictures. Close that tag out. We're going to call this picture 3. All right. Oop. We're messing up. Go to the end there. Div class pictures. I'm going to call this picture 4. And notice how it's just going automatically. That's what Bob Ross used to say. Automatically to the next line. It's that easy. We're just plotting out our divs, designing out our website. And you're not limited to the setup that I'm doing. If you want to use the whole workspace right here to show your work, you don't want to have any ad space, which I would totally recommend. You can do that. Oh, it's picture 4 or picture 5. And let's keep going. Div class pictures close tag picture 6. Doing it again. Div class. You can see why establishing these classes and establishing these CSS rules are so important, because it speeds up the whole process of, oh man, I got to make a div and then define exactly what this div does every single time. When you're doing web design work, timing is everything. You can lose your job if you're not fast enough. Okay, so we got picture 9. Awesome. So I've got my little placeholders in here. I've got this front page set up, and that's really what I wanted to show you today. I wanted to show you how to start laying out your work so it makes sense and it looks good and it's not just a line to the left. You can come in here and you can actually replace, let's say I had a piece of artwork that I wanted to throw in there, like maybe a picture I want in my title bar instead of this ugly text. So let me get rid of this text. All right, so let's go to, let's see, there are 2 ways that we can insert an image into here. So we can do the old school method, so we can say img src. Okay, let me find some images. Let's see. Let's just throw that. Whoa, what is this thing doing? Now, you can do this, but the problem with this is once you insert that image tag in between, it is not restricted to the boundaries of the div. So you got to be careful of that. So what I like to do, delete that. I like to change the role of things. So go up here to my CSS role, my CSS designer panel. I'm going to go to the title bar. And I'm going to make my background image. Okay, so I'm going to go into pictures. I'm going to find that lovely image of this. Okay, cool. So I can now change the background position, and I can position it however I want. Let's go down here. There we go. Ooh, look at that. Ooh la la. That looks fancy. And you can do all that for everything in here. For all the pictures and all that. Now, with these pictures, you have to be careful, because if you change the rule, so if you change how the rule works, watch what happens. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to do it before. Let's put a background image in there. Let's say, okay. It changes it for everything under that rule. So you have to be careful. So, well, what do? Here's what you do. If you want your image to fit inside that box properly, you're going to have to resize that image to the pixel size in Photoshop. So let's get rid of this. Trash it. So let's go into Photoshop once again. Hiding Photoshop. And so I'm going to take that nice background image. And I know it's 250 by 250 for that panel. So I'm going to make a new document. All right, so create new. All right, so 250 pixels by 250 pixels. And we're going to call this, I don't know, button 1. I'm going to keep the resolution low because we're working on a website. We don't want the resolution overly high, otherwise it's going to take forever for our website to load. So resolution, you want to keep it 72 dpi. We're going to hit OK. Oh, look at that. It's the exact size I need. Let's go into File, and we're going to place. All right, let's find our lovely picture. All right, let's place that bad boy. All right. I'm going to do a little bit of trimming. Click OK. Oh, look how lovely that is. File, save as. Let's come down here. Let's just save it as a JPEG. And let me put it on my desktop so I know where it's at. Take the quality down. All right, so we've got that saved. Let's come over here. Let's go into our pictures. Let's get rid of that. And again, this is just for the design. We haven't even gotten to functionality, but it's just for the design and layout. So let's do what we did before. So we're going to go to IMG, SRC. So image, source, browse. Go to my desktop where I saved this lovely button. We're going to call it button 1. We're going to insert that bad boy. Let's close out the tag. And there it is. In perfect size. Totally clickable. Isn't it lovely? So, that kind of sums up everything we're going to be doing today. Everything we're going to be covering. I just want you guys to design out your main page. Get it all decorated and fancy like what I have here. And once you're done with this, raise your hand. I'll come over to you. We'll do a little review. And that'll be it for today. This is going to be very time consuming. and use this video if you have questions. Feel free to rewind.